So today we're going to be talking about giving thanks for our roles in life. A few weeks ago, my message, I touched on the idea of Carl Jung's archetypes. And I just, threw it in there and didn't really do any explaining or anything, but tied it into what we were talking about. And these patterns of behaviors, or roles as I like to call them, are formed in our collective consciousness and are expressed through us at different times in our lives. Now, sometimes the patterns overlap and we might be expressing two at the same time. Sometimes we never express any of them at all. Now, today we're going to explore these roles and how they can reflect on our spiritual consciousness. But let's begin with our statements of truth. Together, please. I am a child of God. I am deserving of good in my life. I am accepting my good now. So with this time of the year and the holiday season, we encounter these different patterns in each of us a little more often than just day-to-day living. Sometimes it's because of how we were molded in the birth order or from things that have happened in our past, or maybe it's just a result of our survival techniques that happened in our family of origin when we were experiencing different things. And I know for me, I've fallen into the role of the hero and the jester, especially during Christmas time growing up. Now, for some of you that don't know, I have 9 brothers, had 9 brothers and sisters. 2 of them have made their transition. But there was 10 of us kids running around in a little 3-bedroom junior ranch style home. So it was pretty crazy sometimes in there. But what I always did is I was like the one who could convince everyone, let's put together a play, for my parents. And I'd gather all my siblings, except those that were too little to be in it, but they would be the audience. And we would do, how the Grinch stole Christmas, or we would do Santa Claus is coming to town. Sometimes we do Baby Jesus, but we like the other ones better. It was just one of those things, even though we were all Catholic, but hey. But I found myself, playing the hero during those times, because I was like the rally queen, and I would just get everybody, and I'd convince everybody they could do a great job in their performance. And what's really kind of funny is, even as an adult, I did that too, because when I taught youth church, we would do a play for Christmas, and we'd do one for Palm Sunday. And so I would get the kids and rally them and cheer them on and tell them, you can do this part, you can get up there to the mic and you can say your part. And we'd encourage them, and in 4 weeks we put together, 4 practices actually, we put together a great play. And so I found myself still being that hero, that cheerleader and hero, even as an adult. Now, the jester fit into this example because I would always get everyone to laugh and enjoy the time that we would have together. If somebody in that smallest space began to argue or fight or, pick on each other, I'd always do something silly or, say, let's do this and make a joke or just lighten up the whole atmosphere. And so I found myself doing that all the time with, 10 kids running around. But it did. It switched the energy, and it was important to be that jester. Now, I know that some of you have experienced these same things, and that you played roles as a youth, and maybe you don't play them now as an adult, or maybe you have. Or perhaps you have discovered that you fit into these roles when you get around certain people. Like for me, if I get around my siblings again, all of a sudden I see myself edging back into that role, or that archetype, and I'm like, I don't want to do that again. And so what happens if we feel pushed in the role and we don't really want to be in that role anymore? Well, we usually get frustrated or upset, or at the very least, we're uncomfortable. And especially if we can realize this. Now, sometimes we just get back into those roles and we don't even realize we're into it till you get home after the family feud and go, what in the heck happened? How did that happen again? I said I wasn't going to do that again. And then I found myself right back there. Well, that's the thing about the roles. They can be discomforting or they can be comforting depending on where you fall into those roles and how you play them. Now, sometimes we like being needed and being in charge, and we like the roles we have, and we feel comfortable there, and we think, gosh, this is great that everybody wants me to be here. And then other times we don't, because we start feeling like we're doing all the work. We're the ones taking care of everybody. Well, the thing about it is we have to look at these roles and we have to define them in our lives and see which ones are showing up so that we can better understand our own self and where we are. Now, the roles actually stem from the energy in your subconscious, believe it or not. And this energy is created from situations in the past, thus the subconscious. And this energy comes forth and filters through that subconscious into your conscious mind, into the present time, and it can be triggered by anything, from any situation that had created that energy in the first place. Now, sometimes we relive these situations over and over and over again, don't we? We find ourselves back in that same place going, why am I here? Why am I reliving this? And sometimes they're not pleasant, and sometimes they are. It just depends on the situation. But what we can do is define that energy and that behavior, and it can let us know that we are collectively doing this, you see. We are holding these roles in our consciousness. And this energy could be called our collective consciousness, which is, the collective consciousness is the set of shared beliefs, ideas, and moral attitudes which operate as a unifying force within society. Well, the collective consciousness is all of us right here, right now, from that definition, because we are in this sacred place, holding that oneness of each other, holding each other in that collective consciousness. And the thing about that we have to know is that it goes beyond this room. It goes beyond each one of us. It goes beyond out into the world, and we all can be in that collective consciousness at one time. And it can show up as these roles or archetypes, or it can show up to us as being a place where we feel safe, where we feel at home, where we feel free to express who we are, which is what I hope, well, what Reverend Warren and I hope that you guys feel here. Because this is your Unity Church and Spiritual Center of Rockdale family. It is your community, and this is a place that is safe, and you are free to be who you want to be. You don't have to play any roles. But that energy that we collect here can also be that idea that when we come from a place of dread or we don't want to do something, we can make a collective consciousness energy around that too. And again, that goes out into the universe. It goes out into you and me and everybody around. So if we're dreading something or not wanting to do something, or we have a negative energy about it, we are polluting the universe. We are polluting our own consciousness, but we are polluting other people's consciousness. So that's why it's important for us to learn about these roles and learn about these archetypes so that we don't fall into doing things that we don't want to do, that we know aren't healthy, that we know is sending out that negative energy. You know, it's our choice. We get to choose. Are we going to send out positive energy or negative? What do you want to do? You want to send out positive energy? Yeah. We don't want to send out negative energy, do we? Because it just floats around, comes hanging around your head like a dark cloud. But see, even the roles I had as in my childhood of the jester and the hero, there was times that I didn't enjoy those at all. Now, I did have fun doing the plays, and I had fun breaking up, you know, being silly and getting my brothers and sisters refocused. But there was times I didn't enjoy. One of them was when I had to convince my siblings that my parents were doing the best they could with what they had, even though they were drinking every night or drunk. You know, I didn't like that, because I felt like I wasn't really being truthful, even though now as an adult I can say they did the best they could in the situation that they were in. But when my dad would get angry at my brothers for bringing home bad grades on the report card, and he would take them and beat them with the belt, I didn't like that, because I was the one that would sit there and knock on my dad's bedroom door and say, "Stop, Dad, stop." Or if my brothers came out, I would say, "It's okay," you know, and I would cheer them up, and I would be their caregiver, and I would tell them it doesn't matter that they had bad grades. I know that they're smarter than that. And I was then being the hero and the caregiver and trying to switch the situation. But I didn't like that. I didn't like it when my mom would call me at 3 a.m. in the morning, drunk, not making sense, babbling on. I'd pick up the phone. This is when we had phones with cords on. And I would lay the phone down on the floor, And every once in a while I'll just pick it up and try to convince her how much we loved her and cared about her and how all of my siblings and I wanted to see the best for her. And yet she couldn't see it. She couldn't even hold that in her own consciousness. And now I know that I made a difference in her consciousness, because had I not, I probably wouldn't be here. And it does reflect back onto us, whatever we are holding for somebody else. But I didn't enjoy myself during that time. I didn't like it. And the main reason why is because I needed a hero. I needed a gesture. And I needed the caregiver to be in my life to help me. I wanted somebody to cheer me up. I wanted somebody to say, hey, yeah, you can do it. It's great. Come on, it's going to be fun. I wanted somebody to pat me on the head when I was hurting or sad. And there wasn't anybody there. I was looking outside myself for the comfort that I needed. And you know where that was? It was inside me. Eventually I learned that it wasn't about what was going on out there, but everything that was going on in here. I had to find it within myself. And see, that's what happens in those roles in life we get into. They're created by our outer circumstances, and we try to make it good for everybody, but it's not going to make it good unless we allow it to come from within each person. And the only way to do that is for them to do it. And the only way to do that is in our consciousness. By lifting it up in our consciousness, it's going to help lift it up in their consciousness. And however that turns out for them. See, if we believe we are here to rescue anybody or to fix anybody, we got to change that notion. Because we are not here to rescue or fix anyone but ourselves. We are here to lift up in consciousness our thoughts and ideas to reflect the goodness of God. And that's why we say the prayers that we do in unity. We are here to give thanks for the roles in our life that have brought us to this now moment. And we are supposed to do that with gratitude and with a grateful heart. And yet, if it's not a comfortable role to play, do not allow yourself to get back in that role again. You know, let it go. And find that trigger that is putting you into that place. So let's look at these 12 archetypes, shall we? There's Carl Jung. They're divided into 3 areas: the ego types, the soul types, and the self types. And each one I have a motto, a core desire, a goal, a strategy, a talent, the greatest fear, the weakness, and different names for that role. And you might find yourself in some of these. The innocent is free to be, their motto is free to be you and me. And their core desire is to get to paradise. Their goal is to be happy. And their strategy is to do things right. And their talent is faith and optimism. All good qualities. All of these are good qualities. Now, where the ego gets in there and starts running it amok is when they get into fear. They have a fear that they will be punished for doing something bad or wrong. So what do? If they have that fear going on in their lives, they overplay, don't they? I am so sweet and so good, and I want you to love me, and I am going to just be over here in the corner waiting for you to come over and talk to me, because I am so innocent. Ever been around somebody like that? Yes. Their weakness is that they're going to be boring because of their naive innocence. So they're standing over the corner, not participating with the group because they're waiting for somebody to come over and see how sweet they are. The innocent is also known as the utopian, traditionalist, naive, mystic, saint, romantic, and dreamer. But listen to me, that when we talk about the greatest fear and the weakness, that's just if you let your ego get in the way. The rest of that is all good stuff, and that's where the innocent wants to come from. And that's who they want to be, and there's nothing wrong with that. But don't get yourself into those roles where you're sitting back watching everybody else have a good time while waiting for somebody to engage you. You have to break loose of those fears. The orphan or the regular guy or gal, and if you see, it's Oliver up there asking for more, whatever he asked for, porridge or whatever. And Mr. Smith goes to Washington, where he was there to be the one. But the motto for them is all men and women are created equal. The core desire is connecting with others. So see, an orphan and an innocent would be good together because they would bring each other some balance. To belong is their goal. Their strategy is develop ordinary solid virtues, be down to earth, and the common touch. Their talent is realism, empathy, and lack of pretense. Now, doesn't that sound like a wonderful person? Yeah, and they are. But when their ego gets in the way, their greatest fear is to be left out or to stand out from the crowd. Their weakness, so what do? They overcompensate. You know, and then they get in your face and you're thinking, man, you're aggressive. Get away from me, you know. But their weakness is losing one's own self in an effort to blend in or for the sake of superficial relationships. The other thing I want to point out before I go any further on these is think about all your family get-togethers that are coming up and who's playing these different roles and how you cannot engage in them. Because all you have to do is think about the good stuff up there. Think about their talents or think about their goal to belong. So a person that's an orphan, you can just go up to them and start talking to them and let them think that they can tell you their whole life history, and they're going to think, wow, you are really a nice person, and you are, I'm not going into that defense mode. They won't go to that place of the weakness, losing oneself in an effort where they get aggressive and start, you know, going there. But the regular person is also known as the good old boy, every man, the person next door, the realist, the working stiff, the solid citizen, the good neighbor, the silent majority. So here's the hero. I told you a little bit about that already. But where there's a will, there's a way. Yeah. Core desire to prove one's worth through courageous acts. Their goal is expert mastery in a way that improves the world. Their strategy is to be strong and confident as possible. And their talent is competence and courage. That's what I had when I would talk to my brothers, but then my fear would come in and I would start to feel less than, having that weakness and vulnerability out there, and sometimes feel like a chicken. The weakness is arrogance and always needing another battle to fight. What happened with that was when I was needing the hero, then I would feel like, hey, I've been doing this for all of you guys. Why aren't you over here doing this for me? Why aren't you calling me up saying, how you doing? You know, when you know I was going through a divorce, why didn't you call me up and say, hey, what can I do for you? No, they avoided me like the plague, you know, but I got into that space of, oh, you guys need to be doing back to me what I've been doing to you for all these years. And that is not what it's about, you know. It's not going into those roles and using them in a negative way. So you can see the warrior, crusader, rescuer, superhero, yes, but a superhero. Anyway, the caregiver. The caregiver, love your neighbor as yourself. Their core desire to protect and care for others. Their goal is to help others. Strategy, doing things for others, and their talent is compassion and generosity. Nurses. Nurses' age, yeah, fall into that big time. And it's a good thing. I'm glad we have caregivers that are nurses. Thank you. Barbara said back then. But the greatest fear is selfishness and ingratitude. People not appreciating all that they do or all the care they give. And that can bring out that ego self, and they can get on fire with being mean and hateful and saying, I'm sorry, you're no longer my friend. But you'll never do that to me, right? Weakness is martyrdom and being exploited. The caregiver is also known as the saint, the altruist, the parent, the helper, supporter. How many people have been around people that want to be your parent all the time? Some of you should be raising your hand, 'cause I know you have friends that are like that. Let me tell you how you need to do this, right? Anyway, the explorer. The explorer is a don't fence me in kind of person. The freedom to find out who they are through exploring the world. They want to experience a better, more authentic, more fulfilling life is their goal. But guess where that goal gets distorted? When they start getting selfish and they start thinking that, you know, that they're going to get trapped in a relationship, or they're going to get trapped by any kind of rules or authority at all. Strategy is the journey seeking out and experience new things, escape from boredom. Their talent is anonymity, ambition, being true to one's soul. And again, that's where the selfishness jumps in. If they let their ego get in the way, they all of a sudden are not, they're fun to be around because they're always up for something new. You say, hey, let's go to the movie. Okay, let's go. Let's go to the Quick Trip and get a soda. Okay, let's go. But then, if you say, well, will you come over for dinner next week and bring the potatoes? Oh, I don't know what I'm doing next week. They can't make a commitment. So, yeah, you guys are laughing. Somebody's playing that role, huh? Okay, the rebel. We know rebels too. This was my brother Mike who made his transition. He's definitely a rebel. Rules are made to be broken. That was like it should have been tattooed across his core desire, revenge, revolution. The goal to overturn what isn't working. Strategy, disrupt, destroy, or shock. The talent is outrageous, radical freedom. Now listen. Martin Luther King was a rebel too. So there's good things that can come from that. But also, we can let the ego get in the way, and the greatest fear is to be powerless or ineffectual. Weakness, crossing over to the dark side, crime. That's what my brother ended up doing. The outlaw is also known as the rebel, revolutionary, wild man, the misfit, or iconoclast. The lover. We all want to be lovers, don't we? You're the only one. Everybody loves you. Intimacy and experience is their core desire. The goal being in a relationship with the people, I don't know what it says, whose surroundings they love. Strategy to welcome more and more physically and emotionally attractive. To become more and more, because that's how they become more and more physically attractive, is if more people love them, then they know that they are like so cute and so special, because the whole world loves them. Who wouldn't? I mean, then they can also turn into that little puppy dog, with the eyes, or they wrap people around their fingers. Talent is passion, gratitude, appreciation, and commitment. Those are all great things when they're in balance, aren't they? But their greatest fear is being alone, a wallflower, unwanted, unloved. Oh, the lover, if they feel unloved by somebody, there's wrath. Their weakness is outward directed desire to please others at a risk of losing their own identity. And that can happen easily with a lover. They let everybody else tell them what to do and stuff because they're trying to just get that love. And this is when, for some people, if they've had a parent that didn't show love. My mom had a hard time with any kind of physical love at all. And she couldn't even hug you, really, or give you a kiss goodnight or anything. And, we all strived at different points in our lives to gain that love from her. So, you become that distorted lover because you're longing for that in your life. And that can make you make bad choices in relationships as an adult or teenager. The creator, if you can imagine it, it can be done. These are fun people to be around. To create things of enduring value. To realize a vision is their goal. To create culture, express own vision. Strategy, develop artistic control and skill. Their talent is creativity and imagination. Musicians, fall into this big time. But their greatest fear is mediocre vision or execution. So, they can end up being weakness, perfectionism, bad solutions. If they don't think they have it exactly right, or they can't do it exactly right, or somebody might hear a note that might not be exactly right, they're not going to do it, And but there's a lot of people that fall into that. The creator is also known as the artist, inventor, innovator, musician, writer, or dreamer. The jester. You only live once. The core desire to live in the moment with full enjoyment. The goal is to have a great time and lighten up the world. Strategy, play, make jokes, be funny. Talent is joy. Now these people are great party people. Great fun to be around, right? Supposed to say yes? Yeah. Because I've played that role before. Greatest fear, being bored or boring to others. And their weakness is from, you say that one. Thank you. And wasting time. So the jester is also known as the fool, trickster, joker, practical joker, or comedian. The sage. And we have a few sages around here. The motto is, the truth will set you free. Core desire to find the truth. The goal is to use intelligence and analysis to understand the world. Their talent is wisdom and intelligence. Their strategy is seeking out information and knowledge, self-reflection, and understanding thought process. Their greatest fear, though, see, they're wonderful people to be around, because they will give you those kernels of wisdom, that great knowledge, that stuff that you really want to hear and get into discussion about, and it's like deep, and you start feeling like your spirit is on fire, you know, and you're like, wow, I want to listen to this. But then their fear gets in, and they being duped or misled or any ignorance. So somebody says something dumb, you know, they're liable to go, were you not listening to what I just said? You know, or if they think somebody's lying to them, they don't like that either. Because they're very intuitive, so they think, because they're the wise ones, yeah. And they think that, you know, if somebody lies to them, this is not good. You're cut off from the wisdom, you know. Sorry, I'm not sharing anymore. Weakness can study details forever and never act. Now, these are the people that I say are on their spiritual journey and read every darn book in the universe, trying to find their enlightened moment and never do anything about anything that they've learned. They just keep on day after day after day after day. Yeah, you've been there. The sage is also known as the expert scholar, detective. See, they're going to know if you're lying or not telling the truth, so don't lie around them. Advisor, thinker, philosopher, academic, researcher, thinker. They got a long list for these guys. Mentor, teacher, contemplative. Yeah, teachers are really in that area. The magician. I make things happen. Understand the fundamental rules of the universe, laws of the universe. That's what it was. Goal to make dreams come true. Their talent is finding win-win situations. And strategy, develop a vision and live by it. Now see, this is great because they'll keep you organized. If you're an unorganized person, they'll keep you organized, keep you on the straight and narrow, and help you accomplish things. But their greatest fear is unintended negative consequences. So they don't want anything to happen that they've planned out and then it end up being a bomb or not being successful. Oh, that'll break their heart. And their other weakness is becoming manipulated, because if they have an idea in their mind and they've already planned it out and they want it to be just so, then by golly, they're going to convince everybody that this is the way it has to be. You know, no flexibility whatsoever. The magician is also known as the visionary, catalyst, inventor, charismatic leader, shaman, healer, medicine man. The ruler power isn't everything, it's the only thing. By golly, today we're going to do this, and that's the only way it's going to be. Their core desire is control. The goal is to create a prosperous, successful family and community. See, they have good intentions. They do. They want people to be prosperous and having fun. Their talent is responsibility and leadership, and their strategy is to exercise their power. But when the ego gets in the way, we all know what happens, don't we? We don't want to be around that person, do we? No, not pretty. Greatest fear is chaos and being overthrown. Being overthrown. That's where the ego gets in. They're afraid that somebody else might be in charge. So weakness is being authoritarian and unable to delegate. The ruler is also known as the boss, the leader, aristocrat, king, queen, politician, role model, manager, or administrator. And see, if you have a manager or administrator in that role of a ruler, it could be a good thing, as long as they don't let their ego get in the way and start picking on employees, right? So how many of these do you guys relate to, and how many are showing up today?
A lot.
Yeah.
A little bit of...
Well, like I said, they fall into these three different categories, and the thing we got to look at, which I'm going to go back one for a minute because I don't want you to read that yet. The first thing we got to look at is, in the first and foremost of our minds, we have to realize no matter what roles are showing up for us or have shown up for us, that we are spiritual beings. So when we come from that place of spiritual beings, what are we going to see? We're going to see the good. And we're going to see the good in these roles out picturing in our lives. We don't have to go to that place of the ego distorting it. And so I've got this quote here from a little insight about our ego from Adam Smash and Power of Mind from Charles Fillmore. And it really kind of helped me to understand that idea of putting our ego in balance. It says, it is possible for man to form states of consciousness that are out of harmony with the God principle. But these do not endure, and through experience man learns to adjust his thought to that of God. That first sentence there is saying if our ego is getting amok. I will be what I will to be is basic in all creation, and it proves itself in the face of human reason and logic. You know, the squirrel out there running around collecting nuts and burying them. He's doing what he's willed to do, right? And so are we. God is free to do as He wills, and He has implanted that same freedom in man. When we understand this ego-forming capacity of man, and even of nature, we have the key that unlocks the many mysteries and contradictions that appear in every walk of life. So no matter what role you're playing or what is showing up in your life, you know, we can unlock that and see that we can be that spiritual being, that idea of being what God has willed me to be, and be like the squirrel running around burying the nuts. Play it out like it's supposed to be. Don't let your ego distort it and you become those fears or weaknesses that are underlying that role. And see, basically when we allow our ego to be that part of our personality that builds self-esteem without being egotistical, that protects our sense of self without withholding who we are, and allows us to express opinions while being open-minded, we are aligning the ego with God mind and expressing the true essence of who we are. You see, our soul longs to be that expression of who we are. Whether we are the explorer, the rebel, the lover, or the creator, all of these roles want to manifest in a way that our soul longs for. When we do that, we will be coming from that Christ mind, and we will be serving our highest good. Now, Fillmore says this about the soul. Hope you can read it. I tried to squeeze it in one paragraph. We do not have to look at the many experiences recorded in the Bible of the spiritually illumined to prove the existence of the spiritual super substance. We're talking about God. People everywhere are discovering it, and as they always have in every age and clime. Unless it is put under control of the Christ mind, it takes on that psychic and spooky expressions which distort the soul instead of unfolding it under divine law and drive its victims into our psychopathic sanatoria, meaning letting your ego get amok and going a little berserk on some of those roles. However, men will continue to pray, and prayer releases the innate men will continue to pray, and prayer releases the innate glory of God mind. So we must be taught how to establish our identity with the Christ, and through it to gain the mastery of the stored-up riches of the man of the invisible. We experience some of these roles sometimes without even realizing it. We get more caught up in being and doing what everybody else wants us to do rather than what we want to do. That's where prayer and meditation can get you recentered, and you can figure out what you want in life, how you want to express, what do you want to show up like day-to-day living. And that's important. We don't want to get so hung up in the role that we can't see the beauty of living, the growth experience, or the realization that we are in the midst of God every single minute of the day. We don't want these roles to define us. We want to use them as a way to learn about us, a self-awareness piece, but we want to be that expression of that highest good. And we can do that when we use them as a talent and not as a place of weakness or fear. This quote from Fillmore, why must we experience these roles, and what is the purpose of having to learn what they mean to us, and how can we better utilize these abilities in any capacity? And this quote from Fillmore helps us with that. When man is obedient to Spirit, he will not suffer burdens. To trust Spirit, he must know of its guidance by experience. And we get those experiences through what? Those roles we play. But we also get the experience of knowing how to follow Spirit through those roles. Because we know how we really want to be. We really know how they can be a gift or a talent. We don't have to use them, in the wrong way. By those who have not learned the guidance of Spirit, that experience must be acquired. So sometimes we have to go into that role and be that negative or fear or weakness in order to know that's not what we want to do. Man is spirit and must find himself before he can communicate with universal spirit. Suffering is optional, people. We learn the guidance of Spirit through experience, and we can experience these roles. And it's a way to enhance our relationship with Spirit, with God, believe it or not. When we learn to use these roles as talents and gifts, we can freely give thanks and gratitude for these roles in our lives. You see, we are spiritual beings having a physical experience, and these experiences can be repetitive and conflicting, or they can be a role or experience to lift us up to our higher self. And we can unfold and allow our ego to be that part of us that really truly helps us protect ourselves. This holiday season, when we get together with family and friends, we can live and react from those old roles and patterns, or we can move into a new sense of self by lifting our collective consciousness to a place that's responding and receiving the highest good for all. Which one do you want? I want the latter. Yeah, I do too. I want to be in that place of lifting that collective consciousness. So you walk into your family's Thanksgiving party, and all of a sudden you see so-and-so that usually triggers you into some kind of crazy mode. Stop. Take a breath. Lift your consciousness up. We're all here to support you and lift you up and hold you in that place where you're not going to go into that reactionary mode, where you're not going to go into that fear or weakness. We're here for you. Because we can use our talents to enhance those relationships and define those roles exactly the way we want them to be. We can use them to become a better spiritual being. And you see, our soul is a portal which opens up to us, and we live from the experience of good no matter what our role is in life. All we have to do is give thanks for these roles in our lives, embrace them, and give thanks. And the lessons that they bring, we can embrace them and let go of the stuff that we don't want to show up in our lives, and we can seek that higher self through every experience. And we can do this when we give thanks for the roles in our lives. So let's affirm this together. We give thanks for our roles in life. Thank you for being here today.